report?
Yeah,
Do we do that first?
and I should. Yeah, started.
Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to our May 19th meeting. I'd just like to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be available. I'd just like to remind our public forum guests that you do have 5 minutes to speak for your allotted time, and we also have board member Lomas on the line. So do we have any apologies for our meeting this morning? None. Public forum. The first person I'd like to invite is, I should start at this list, is Linda Chumley-Smith and
David.
are you coming? You're both coming up? Yes. Okay. Fantastic. Welcome.
Just put one of those chairs around a bit so you can sit together and you can look down the camera. Yeah. Make sure it's your best side. Is it?
Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation.
I'd just like to thank Alan for the documentation that he sent to us regarding the meeting on the 25th of February and the 4th of March. Just wanted to clarify, it has clarified for us some questions that we had, but the documentation that we were informed of was public excluded was the meeting that was held approximately July of 2020. And that was the exclusion that I was referencing when I spoke to it on national TV. And I just wanted to clarify for Tony that that was the meeting that we were speaking of, that Gary Towler, in a meeting with Alan Tiplady, that David and I had last 6 weeks, this was the meeting that we were told that that documentation was public excluded. So I would just like clarification of that, and I would also like to ask that that decision-making material is provided to the public. And I would hope that and ask that the Mercury Bay Community Board pursue this and ask council for that documentation. So that's, I just wanted to clarify that issue. And then the other issue, as far as the resolutions that were passed in Whitianga and Pauanui and Tairua with regard to the sirens and the deactivation of the sirens. We are anxiously awaiting till the 1st and 2nd when council makes that decision on listening to what the community has requested. And again, we would ask that the community board is speaking on behalf of the community. And we trust that you have changed your voice on this, but we have not heard that. So we would ask that you please represent the community going forward in this decision-making process that happens on the 1st and 2nd in relation to the LTP, if you have a say in that. And given the essence of time, I'll hand it over to David, who is going to speak to the information regarding the sirens that we have looked at and done research on that would potentially be something that could be used in our areas.
Okay, everybody for an update. We have been talking to the principals of the manufacturers who make the sirens. This is a company in the United States through Zoom meetings, and the New Zealand supplier of same. They've undertaken to provide audio mapping for the area for each community, Cook's Beach, Hahei, Whitianga, Tairua and Pauanui. We're asking them for further audio mapping, and this is to empower all of those ratepayer committees with information that they would otherwise not be able to acquire. So I think it would be beyond reasonable doubt that the community has a bit of large interest with over 3,000 participants, and as part of my role in this exercise, I've undertaken to find out as much technical information for everybody to work with. So it may come to a point where the council has decided that it will not introduce it to the LTP, but my gauge of the community is not going to go away, and the prospect of private funding is on the horizon. So that's right. I would also like to say thank you for supplying the documentation. That gives us a starting point. We are concerned about a meeting which is confidential, which made a decision for the council not to pursue sirens on the peninsula, especially when we have conflicting information produced by NEMA that said that the emergency management group from the Waikato side of the family were congratulating themselves on accepting the standards for the sirens. So somewhere there's a conflict. We have one group in Hamilton saying endorse the use of the sirens, and we have a TCDC acknowledgement that the sirens aren't going to proceed. So that's bad. So we need to investigate that. It's a matter of discovery for us, so that when we go and talk to the public about what steps they can have, is important for us. So we need to discover whether in fact that meeting was confidential and not allowed to be shown. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone have any questions for Linda or David?
Oh, we can supply you the cost of the sirens and roughly it's preliminary work. And if anybody wants technical information, we're only too happy to supply that for anybody. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. I have one question for you. You talked about some initial indications and budgets and things here. You talk about Whitianga, Cook's Beach and things like that. Obviously, is this something that you see the value that if it was to progress would need to be rolled out, you understand, across the entire district? We wouldn't just be looking at one small area of the district?
That would be a TCDC policy, not necessarily a community policy. It is quite within the rights of the community to do things on their own behalf, as was done with the sirens of Tawanui, where there was a cumulative input of monies to put those sirens up.
We're actually working with as many of the communities as we are able to, because we realise that it probably would be a community-wide initiative. However, people are getting quite adamant that they will probably go it alone if council do not, and the community boards do not endorse what the community is asking for.
Okay. So those deliberations are early June for the LTP, and
yes,
you've done the right thing to feed your concerns in through that process, so we'll have to wait.
Yes,
wait for the deliberations to happen.
We're very excited.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
David Emerson,
This is the original big pound box as well.
do you want to come take a seat?
Thank you.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of the homeowners about the seawall consent. We've got representatives, Jim Dillon, Paul Dillon, sorry, Joe Wills and Wendy Wills. Wendy's like to speak up for himself from a landowner perspective, really. I was just wondering, I saw the report was emailed to me. I was wondering, was that correspondence?
Yes, we did receive that, thank you.
Okay, that's cool.
Apologies, it was left out to begin with.
That's cool.
I assure you it was accidental.
Okay, no, that's fine. So I thought it would be quite useful just to outline the applicant's position at the moment. Just a brief comment about the staff report, and then obviously many will have your comments and maybe a few questions after that. So I really want to speak to the plans, the attachment plans that were sent out. I think this one is probably quite a reasonable one. Like there is the option of putting a path at the back of the wall for probably 100, 120 metres And there's also the option of putting a path for the last 3 properties behind the wall. But the middle is very restrictive in terms of it's located over 3 or 4 properties, private properties, and just very restrictive in terms of getting a walkway along that wall. So there is the option of putting paths in at either end, but then we've got restrictions. I think as I've shown in some of the attachments, we've got restrictions at both ends of the southern end, which has got private property that goes all the way out into the beach. So that the 2 southern property owners aren't part of the application at present. But they are submitters. The northern end of the wall, the Mercury Reserve end, is private property that is also not part of the application. So council would have to do some dealings with that person to continue the footpath along. So there are options for pedestrian access, just not the entire length of the wall. It's not an easy thing, what they're going through. I know through the consent process, it's a hell of a process, is it, John? She's quite difficult to actually getting the resource consent through the system is one thing. They've taken advice from Tonkin and Taylor engineers on whether a walkway can be constructed on top of the wall, and in some parts would have to be on the downslope of the wall. And their recommendations is just they just don't recommend to go there, just because of the design of the wall, having poles going through the GHT style, ongoing maintenance costs. And so that was attached to that report as well. One positive thing is that the coastal expert is predicting that about 98% of the time you can walk up and down the beach uninterrupted, which is quite positive. Now, I'd just like the staff report. Talks about the old consent was always going to have a walkway on top of the wall. The old resource consent, which was conditions were imposed. There was never the intention of a walkway being constructed on top of the wall. It was signage was meant to get put up to say all the best walking along the wall, but there was never a engineering conditions or any design work relating to a future constructive walkway on top of the old, the existing wall as it is. So I've actually got the condition relating to the public access that was issued by the Crown Court by Judge Bollard. So I know the staff report has given 3 options, or given 2 options, and I'd just like to think there's the option of a 3rd option, and I think this is how the council dealt with it 20 years ago, was they just let the resource consent process, the outcomes and conditions relating to public access to be replicated by the council as the landowner. That would be a 3rd option. So the access matters will be a serious matter to be addressed at the hearing relating to this resource consent. And the homeowners, what they're recommending is to say that option 3 is to say whatever the outcome of that resource consent decision in terms of access would be beneficial if that was replicated as TCDC as landowner.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of?
Wendy.
I think Wendy's going to have you 5 minutes.
Can I stand up?
Yeah, absolutely. You can even pace back and forward if you like.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable sitting down.
So, Madam Chair, I'm submit on behalf of the homeowners about this new seawall and the proposed walkway. It's now just over 20 years since the residents of the north end of Buffalo Beach Road awoke to the battering of one of those infrequent but no less damaging easterly storms. It wreaked havoc on the coastline adjacent to properties. For the next 2 weeks, the storms persisted and in its fury removed large swaths of the dunes known as the Council Reserve. So the residents took matters in their own hands and began a program of protecting their properties. Assistance from the council was solicited, but instead of empathy and understanding, the members of the council's only solace was to consider withdrawal from the beach. The council did diddly squat about protecting their own reserve, and therefore homeowners, instead of letting nature take its way, they pushed forward with their own agenda. So in other words, the council said, bugger off, we're not going to help you. So at that point, the residents took the matter into their own hands. They planned and they constructed a seawall, and they saved the council reserve from further erosion. They even replaced large parts of the reserve which had been washed out to sea. And in some cases, the sea was lapping at the front doors of some homeowners. So a resource consent for the work was demanded by the council, and that was granted for 6 years, which has lapsed. The council brought out new plans, which involved demolishing the already successful structure and building a new wall. Once again, the owners responded in a positive manner, enthusiastic that they may get up to a 35-year renewal, subject to all of the conditions the council were to be met. So dipping into their pockets again, they embarked over the years to meet the standards set by the council. Planning started, coastal reports were completed, consultation was carried out with the iwi, DOC, Forest and Bird, and we even had the new structure notified. The plans were looking good. So we were looking forward, after all of these years, to have a hearing set down for later in the year. Weary that the whole process has taken so long. We had spent $1 million and still counting. But alas, more was to come. We get told that part of our consent being granted, we would have to incorporate a public walkway adjacent or on top of the wall. Well, that flew in the face of Tonkin and Taylor, who suggested it was out of the question. These are the coastal experts employed often by the TCDC. The council proposal was then amended to site the walkway behind the wall, and in some cases it would be wholly on reserve, and while in other cases it would be on private property. Understandably, that drew the ire of the homeowners. The council proposal was then, fuel was added to the fire. So, when we asked who was paying for the walkway, the council staff blithely said, you, the homeowners. The suggestion, rather than ridiculed, was that last straw, particularly when we were told that if the council did not get their own way, then a resource consent would be withheld. This is like the schoolyard bully behind the sheds. You do as I say, or else. So my concerns as an old 74-year-old lady living on the beachfront, what are some of the other concerns? What thought has been given to the personal privacy and the security of landowners and the property? Unwelcome visitors and theft. How would I feel being so close to the pathway at night? It's only a few metres, by the way, from our house. What thought has been given to lighting along the walkway in times of darkness from a security viewpoint and a safety viewpoint? The dog beach allows dogs to be on the lead, off the lead. Policing guessing this will become a mammoth task should dogs stray onto a homeowner's property, as they invariably will. We get them anyway, but we actually love the dog beach. But we don't actually need a big, huge rock wheeler at my bedroom door. Will the council build a pathway to match this from the yacht club to Mother Brown's Creek? Horror of horrors, the public may have to use the roadside to get there. And did the other seawall structures around Mercury Bay have similar parameters based upon them? The proposed walkway, the plan, involves 5 sets of stairs down to the beach, weaving itself along land that the council owns and the private people own. So you go along there, you go down there, into the beach, up there and up there again. I can't see elderly walking groups, pushchairs and bikes climbing up 5 lots of steps. That will be a challenge. So given that the homeowners will not contribute financially to a walkway, how will spending on such a frivolous matter go down amongst ratepayers? So I urge you, the community board, to really consider the ramifications before you make the decision to proceed.
Thank you. Any questions of our last 2 presenters? Ellie? No? Oh God, Jeremy. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Nemo.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dave.
That's
Right. Do we have Stephanie here?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Hi. Would you like to come and take a? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think you're all from the Homeowners Hall. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Welcome. And you've come to talk to us about EV card charging. Yeah. Just so you know, this paper has been circulated and we've read it. So I don't know if you want to use this time to take questions or.
I mean, I'm not rereading it. I'm sort of presenting our journey. So there's a
Yes.
little bit more maybe in here.
Okay.
Expand
All
on
right.
that.
Yeah.
That's probably more specific about sort of what it can do.
Okay.
I was just going to explain where it comes from, more a bit about us. Because I think, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I did, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to introduce our company, Ecotron, and to present our proposal for public electric vehicle charging in Whitianga. Firstly, a bit about Ecotron and how it was established. Myself and my husband, Ron, a proud Kiwi and EV enthusiast, have been living and driving electric vehicles in the UK for the past 5 years. During our time in Europe, we have experienced the massive EV adoption wave, and this transition happened faster than we ever anticipated. We came back to New Zealand last year, and it is like travelling back in time when looking at EV infrastructure here. So we saw a massive opportunity to design and build a high-tech public charging post which incorporates all our learnings from Europe and makes it even better by focusing on a user experience, reliability and convenience. There are 4 core members of the Ecotron team, 3 engineers and myself, a town planner. We have a clear vision of what New Zealand's infrastructure should look like for EVs in 2030. Together with our key partners, we have the capabilities to deliver projects from start to finish with limited reliance on third-party products and software. This gives us a huge advantage for future research and development in our products and services and develops technology and high-tech jobs here in New Zealand. Now let us look at the transitioning world from petrol and diesel cars to electric vehicles. You are probably aware of the New Zealand Climate Change Commission report, which has just been released, advising government to stop all imports of internal combustion engines, or petrol and diesel cars, by 2032. This is a trend we are seeing globally, where market forces, along with government incentives, are driving exponential EV sales. COVID-19 has also given us an opportunity to transition away from fossil fuels and rebuild a cleaner world. New Zealand can capitalise on this opportunity by encouraging the uptake of electric vehicles. This will promote cleaner air, result in less noise pollution, enable cheaper overall lifetime costs of car ownership, and decrease reliance on fossil fuels, both foreign and domestic. Kiwi cars can be powered by Kiwi renewable energy. So when talking about EV charging, there are two main types. Firstly, there is DC or direct current. This is a faster means of charging where the charger communicates directly with the battery. These high speeds, however, degrade the car's battery life. Then there is AC or alternating current, which is a slower means of charging than DC. The charger communicates with the car's onboard AC to DC converter. Although it is slower, AC charging has many advantages. The Type 2 socket ensures safety for both the user and the vehicle. The slender design results in lower land usage. The simple installation requires only a domestic power supply. It does not require a transformer, which is typically expensive and noisy. It has significantly lower infrastructure costs when compared to DC, and charging by AC reduces battery degradation. This is what we should be encouraging. So what is the current situation in New Zealand around EV charging infrastructure? As highlighted by the Climate Change Commission report, the EV infrastructure here is improving, however, it is not ready for mass adoption. New Zealand is still in the early adopter stage of EV ownership, approximately 0.5%, or just under 27,000 cars on the road. New Zealand needs to prepare for an estimated 600,000 EVs on the road by 2030. Currently in New Zealand, DC chargers have been installed in locations nationwide which suits the needs now. The majority of these are DC chargers, and they are 50 kilowatt, but this is old technology. In Europe, 50 kilowatt chargers are being replaced by faster DC chargers or multiple AC chargers, allowing more than one user to charge at one location at the same time. DC charging is great for en route travel at major transport nodes and for long distances, and it should be reserved for when absolutely necessary. There are currently only a few AC charging points in New Zealand, which is a government mandated system for public AC charging, due to it being the safest system for public use. When we look to Europe, where EV adoption is a lot higher, there is massive investment going into EV charging. AC chargers are being placed on streets, workplaces, car parks, airports, tourist attractions, and large shopping centres, and DC charging is reserved only for services and charging hubs. To cope with huge demand, most of the charging will be done at home or at workplace on AC, as the most convenient time to charge a car is while it is parked. One interesting case study is Wales, which has a similar population size to New Zealand. They currently have 300 public chargers. By 2030, Wales plans to install just under 500,000 chargers to meet their climate change ambitions. This is no small task. 98% of these chargers are planned to be AC. So what is the Hecotron solution? We are proposing to install a network of high-tech AC charging infrastructure that is easy to use via mobile app, reliable and conveniently placed. The Hecotron technology inside the post is connected to 4G, and so the live status of the post can always be seen, meaning drivers can confidently travel to their destination knowing the charger is available. Hecotron will cover the cost of installation, and in return will bill the user to charge their car at our posts. And by maintaining control of the network, we can ensure its reliability. This is how the business model works. In Whitianga, we have identified Albert Street as the preferred location, as it is close to the town centre. This location is subject to power connection, and we would welcome any other suggestions you may have for other locations. So what are the benefits of the Hecotron model? It is convenient and reliable public charging infrastructure. It enables a fast network delivery by covering the high upfront cost of installation for councils and businesses. It offers an alternative to DC charging. It encourages EV adoption, as it makes charging convenient and accessible to all, especially for those who cannot afford to install expensive at-home chargers and for those who rent or live in multi-tenanted properties. It enables communities and businesses to leverage off the infrastructure and technologies to easily manage EV initiatives for car sharing, fleet cars and car hire and freight. This is achieved through the smart software in each post and together with the app, meaning that one post can service multiple users. It is operated by a simple app-based payment system. It can easily integrate idle and parking fees. There will be real-time data about charging sessions visible on the app. There will be a network to connect one user to multiple destinations, and we have 2 patents pending which address common EV charging pain points. So we're here today not only to present our technology and proposal for electric vehicle charging to you, but we request that the board provide feedback on the proposed location. We have chosen, and before we move to the next stage with Thames-Coromandel District Council. Thank you very much for listening, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any questions? No?
I agree.
Really, that's.
Yeah. My one comment would be the Blacksmith Lane location.
Yes.
It's prime. Have you had a conversation with sort of, I mean, our supermarkets are still walking distance. I mean, we have the club that's still walking distance to town. Have you spoken to anybody else about?
We haven't, but I think we do want sort of the council and the public to kind of benefit from that, sort of having a little bit of an input and ownership in these things. We are talking to private owners and things like that, definitely. But I think as it is, we do want to see it as a bit of an incentive for adoption of EVs. It should be something that is in the first few years something that people sort of look to and say, oh, if I get an EV, then I have these perks. But yeah, so we do like the idea of sort of a central location for that reason. Yeah, just to incentivize people to see it, look at it, know it's there, and it does sort of give people that boost and that confidence to sort of make that transition, because it's no easy task, changing your habits, your driving habits. It's a big move as well. It's costly. It's probably a bit scary for most people. So having that sort of confidence, seeing the infrastructure there does help, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Dilly?
No, I'm all good.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
So
I
guess,
just looked who's going to put his hand up.
see, in terms of feedback, I guess you will let us know how you want to operate that.
Yeah.
In terms of locations, I'm sure there are other locations that you feel may work better or things like that.
Mhm.
We're happy and open, and we'd love to talk to those.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else for public forum? No. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thanks, Deli. Seconded by Tony. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Carried. All right. Any items not on the agenda? No. Any conflicts of interest? Jeremy, I see you've got your hand up there.
Yeah, got a conflict of interest for an item on the publicly excluded,
Yep.
as well as part of the RMP just regarding the reserves in Hahei.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Noted. All right. Item 1.6, which is our minutes for confirmation. Anyone have any comments? Oh, I do, Donna. Look what my eagle eyes found on page 12.
Sorry.
All right. Any other comments? So I'll move on a seconder for our minutes, please.
Yep.
Deli and Murray, all those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm carried.
Aye.
Correspondence reports. So that's item 2.1 on page 13.
So I'll take that as read, but
Yes.
there's really only that one piece of
Yep.
correspondence from WRC which related to their LTP.
Yes.
And I can advise that staff will be undertaking a submission to that process.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you.
Can I just interrupt very briefly? Can I just introduce over here Rex Keppel? Rex is our new governance and strategy group manager. He's moved up, he's a very wise man, he's moved up from Southland, just like I did many years ago.
I know about that.
To the sunny former climates of the Coromandel. So that's who Rex is over there, in case anybody's wondering.
All right. Thank you. Welcome, Rex.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's just the Coromandel is not as good as the Rocklands.
No, I'd agree with you there. I'll agree with you.
No dispute.
All right. Just thanks. Did we hear back from Bill?
Yes, he's coming.
I've tendered
So was
like 40.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so that's the only.
Mover and a seconder.
Oh, right. Can I get a mover and a seconder for our correspondence report, please? Tony?
Yep.
Deli, thank you. All those in favour? Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Jeremy. Item 2.2, which is our annual community grants priorities. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the report, please?
Yes.
Deli, thank you. Seconded by Murray this time. Fantastic.
So basically, we didn't do this last year because we were a bit late, but we did it the year before. And it's just whether or not the board feel like there's a particular theme or, particular theme of what they would like the community grants to be based on. If there's anything you have a high priority on that you think that you'd give priority to a particular thing.
I feel like come one, come all, and all be judged on your merits against the criteria.
Yeah, me too.
Everybody feel comfortable with that?
Yep.
I do.
Jeremy, you got your hand up there?
Yeah, I just endorse that. I just think let everyone sort of present their case and be treated on the merits on the day, really.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, that was easy.
Yeah. All right, does that answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. Did we get a mover and a seconder? All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? None carried. All right, item, look at us steaming through this. 3.1, Buffalo Beach Homeowners Wall. Can we bring up an image?
Yep.
That might be a bit easier for discussions.
Can I say something?
Sorry.
Jamie?
You mightn't like what I'm going to say, but I think, and this is a huge issue. It's a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than push it now, I'd actually like to go and sit down at a workshop and spend an hour on it. And I know there's a lot of stuff there, and I know stuff, but we've litigated this bit for a long time. We've heard some very serious issues today. I think, in fairness to submitters, we've got to give it more than 5 minutes.
I agree.
And I don't want to delay it. I don't want to, it's not my purpose agenda to delay it, but I think we've actually got to really put some effort in to be fair whatever decision we make, so that when we go back to the homeowners, they can see we've really studied it, we've really put some effort in, whatever the decision is. That's my feeling. I don't know.
Can I just?
Can you, I was going to say you might have a comment around timing?
Yes, so the reason why it's here now is that the consent hearing with Waikato Regional Council, a date has been set for that in July, hence the need for a decision to be made reasonably quickly. However, the homeowners, I know, would like to try and get an extension to that date so that it was held at a later date. So one thing we could do, if you wish, is we could support the homeowner's request for an extension of the date so that we can have more time to deal with the issue as well.
Yeah.
Seems like a great idea.
I think we,
If WRC don't agree to that, we'll probably have to come back to you with that, but if they agree, then they would defer the.
But could we, if we did refer this, say, to a workshop, could we have it that we make a decision, the workshop will be ratified at a future meeting, so it's correct. But we'd probably have a workshop in about 3 weeks, which would be before that.
Yes, we do have, I know.
We've got
Yeah.
one
The
on
9th of June, I think.
Yeah.
I just think in fairness to the homeowners, we've really got to give it some study. I might be wrong.
Tony?
I'm not happy with that idea, but for me, the work that's going under the shoreline management work is a holistic look at the whole peninsula and setting priorities. And at the same time, Alan's got work going to look at the whole of the beach. So I don't think until we have that, we're in a position to make any decision, because the homeowners' wall is only but part of the issues along this beach. Where I'd sit on it, if the homeowners wish to put a wall inside their property, they can do just that. If they're worried about privacy, they can put a fence up and no one can see in. So if it's immediate for them, they can do what they like on their land, but if it's got anything to do with what might be the overall solution for Mercury Bay, and in particular Buffalo Beach, Hooker Beach, then I think be guided by Jamie and his team, but I think it's really something that we have to look at holistically for the whole beach and not just the homeowners' wall. So I don't know if you can actually do it any quicker than you can.
So just again, just in terms of timing, just to clarify, so the study that we've commissioned in relation to the whole of Buffalo Beach, so that's due to be completed by the end of June, by the 30th of June is the date we've set for that piece of work to be completed.
Does that take in right down to Brophy's or start it?
That's from the wharf right down to the end of Brophy's.
Yeah, so it takes that whole, okay, fantastic.
So it's essential
But
that work is done because the homeowners and the boating club all fit inside that space.
Absolutely.
So you can't do one without the other because we know that the homeowners wall is part of the issue with the end effect outside the boating club and indeed where the Putakawa Reserve is. Or the Putakawa Reserve is. So I think hard to get it going faster so we've actually got that information.
I feel, through the chair, that this is 20 years in the making really, isn't it? And to rush it through, as Murray says, sort of without enough information, without all of that work that's done on the wider Buffalo Beach, I think we need to support an extension to push that date out.
Can I make a further comment? See,
Yes, you
and
may.
I'm interested in looking at the study because you look at Brophy's Beach. Now, in terms of stopping erosion, Brophy's Beach is brilliant. In terms of the beach, it's killed the beach.
Yeah.
The beach is gone. The beach is horrible. So, you know, the effects of doing one thing without the other, and we haven't studied that long enough. Brophy's Beach has actually happened, exactly what the engineers told us. Because they did tell us that would happen.
What did they say?
They said that the sand would go out, and it's gone out.
You lose your high tide beach with
Yeah,
a solid
that's
structure.
still got.
But, you know, there's much better models of how to do walls, but it's all costly and design, and we seem to be helping it off the back. And there's a whole lot of other things, and, you know, but if you look overseas, there's a whole lot of other models that can be used. It's all a question of cost.
Jamie and Alan, so does this seem, Tony's got his toys out. Tony, does this waiting for this June 30th report, to me that makes sense. Does that make your life really difficult?
Doesn't make my life difficult.
No, it's fine, yeah.
We can do that?
Yeah, so the key is whether WRC will accept that or not. Bruce and I got a meeting with WRC on Monday morning next week. That's something totally different, but we can raise that with them then.
Why not?
Does it make your life more difficult?
No, my life's much too difficult.
It's in this pay grade.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
It's all right.
I think that it's great that we get this holistic overlook of Buffalo Beach and actually committing to anything prior to that just doesn't make sense to me.
What was the general context around the homeowners wall though, in terms of the beach report that's being done? What was your initial gripe with the homeowners wall? Are we trying to understand what the sand's going to do in terms of this new wall? Is that kind of what the issue is?
I thought it was that they needed to bring their wall up to a consented wall.
So they can do that. They can build a wall that's consentable and probably going to go through, but depending on the amount of dry beach and public access is kind of where my concerns lie.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's enough current sediment supply to the beach in general, and with sea level rise, I don't believe that wall is going to allow for future high tide beach any more frequent than it currently is, and probably much less frequent than it currently is. So that's kind of where I came from in terms of this whole thing.
So all of those issues, I think the community board wanting to hear a lot more detail around all that. So if we do defer and look at a workshop, we can work through all those.
That will definitely provide more light on.
So we need to make sure all of the different perspectives are actually available and tabled for that workshop meeting.
Because there might be an instance where like a management plan might be scraping sand off the delta that's growing out here and nourishing the northern section of the beach with that, and that would support access with the new wall. That would help the access, but it was also nourish the beach and provide medium-term erosion protection.
Yeah, but I can look at Brophy's Beach where we've lost their high tide beach, and then sometimes it'll build up, and then with 48 hours it can be gone again.
Yeah.
You know, you can truck it in and you can put it in, but it can be on in 48 hours. That's a problem. Laws saying that.
Nourishment's a continual management option, you don't just do it once, you have to.
That's big cost to the ratepayers.
Okay.
It is, but if the benefits outweigh the costs in terms of values and things like that, then people fund it.
Oh, they're all part of it.
Okay, so
It's definitely.
the resolution as it sits is now to just defer this until a workshop? Yes,
On the 9th of June.
on the 9th of June. Jeremy, I'm sorry, I can't see if you've got your hand up. Did you want to say anything?
So, well,
Go, while he's thinking. Yeah.
Let's have a seat to talk about this.
Oh, sorry, yes, the toys.
Well, I think you might know this, but I was with Colin Arsenal most of Friday. And so this homeowner's wall, so what he is suggesting is an option. Imagine these concrete slabs, which might be that deep, I don't know, but the concept. And they've got this sort of shape, so they'll be straight or curved. And so what he's suggesting is that if our walls, and that's when I look at Fastenal and those places as well, are built up this way, if the tide comes up to there at high tide, you can walk around there or sit there. If it comes up there, you can walk around there. So it looks a bit like outside the Sydney Opera House or in Auckland. That sort of structure, now it might be expensive, but the tip slabs are saying there's enough concrete going around here for trucks on the way back to dump them in and make these and do them. But he's suggesting that as a solution, and it's something that's probably more aesthetic than some of the things that we use now.
The only problem with that is it doesn't absorb wave impact, so with the riprap structure, because it's porous in a sense, any wave overtopping gets absorbed by that.
He's suggesting is that with the wave hits, it's not fitting that, all of that, or anything else. It's graduated, so it's not stones it's getting absorbed into, like it is down here. He's saying a wave hits that, will hit that bit, go up to there, and then trickle down there. So I don't know, but like an engineer and people like you know better, he's like us as a layperson who thinks about most issues and at least he offers a solution. And that is he just went down, cut those out and suggested, well, when I look at that, as a layperson, it makes sense to me too.
If it had gaps, like obviously you can't reflect that in your toys there, but if each slab there was actually a gap, you would have some dissipation, because the rocks at the moment are, there are holes for that energy to go into.
Right.
The risk is you get water going like that,
Yeah.
it starts undermining
Yes.
in the back. And then some of these things are all just.
But if it's rocks behind it,
It's not anything.
It's textile.
Yeah, so that would be so much an issue, but I would say the wave reflection would still be an issue even with gaps.
Okay, but
I mean, I can talk to Tom Shand, who's like New Zealand's.
well, you
I
can take
like that idea.
you can take those there with you.
Yeah.
You can make the talk to, but
Take a photo of them.
well, yeah, I don't need. I don't file on these to me.
Okay, so coming back to Jeremy, did you want to say anything?
Firstly, apologies, I was on mute talking to myself.
Okay.
So, sorry, I just wanted to reiterate what the other members are saying. I very much support it. I'm just, it's obviously a pretty contentious topic, and obviously, I think we should give it the value it deserves and probably refer it to this workshop. I'm very much supportive of that, and then.
Okay, fantastic. We will do that. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? Is the workshop going to be using Foresight's report information?
That won't be ready yet, will it?
No.
No, not by then, it won't be, no.
That's probably just from the back, but that's one of the questions I'm asking myself here is to get clarity and ensure we are able to manage expectation. We need to set expectation of what we want from the workshop. Like if it's just like, and I think that's what you're asking, isn't it? Is what do you want out of the workshop that's going to then assist you in making a decision when, by, or whatever? Because otherwise, if it's just a collation of a whole lot of information that you're going to ban around, is that what you want? Or what's the purpose of the workshop? And therefore, what's the expectation at the end of it? Because staff will still need to then take away what needs to be to be done before a decision to be made. If it's, that's probably the point I think that we're trying to decipher.
So for me, I think we need that Forsyth report to be able to look through and I'm guessing they will have the.
But isn't the issue though, the issue to me is pretty simple. There's a wall there to protect private property. So the stuff about the reserve, forget about it. The reserve's there by and large and gives us some ground to look after our infrastructure in case of erosion and stuff. The issue, as I see it, is we are happy to support a wall to protect their property that they pay for. What we're saying is that reserve, the wall where they want to put it is on public land, and we want to ensure public access on that land. So if they build a wall between the sea and them on public land, we want to have access along that wall. If they go and build a wall on their properties, they don't have to have any access. They can just build a wall and do it, cover it up and do what they like, and that's the end of that's it. So I don't see it being very complicated. The issue is about access. They do not want the public walking along the top of the wall in front of their properties. And if they say they don't want people looking in there, well, they can fix that with a fence. So that, for me, is I'm quite clear on the issue. It's about providing access on our reserve.
The other thing, so we get this report and say it says a good approach might be taking sand and re-nourishing the beach or what have you. How do we know that's actually going to go ahead, and when will that go ahead? And how does that relate to the consent process for them? So how, is it just going to delay this further for no intended outcome? Like the outcome might be, it's uncertain anyway, so how do we know what's certain in that case? And what's that? By delaying this and knowing a bit more, I just see it still being quite uncertain, so how's that going to help the process?
I think in the end of the night, we've got to come out and say the homeowners need a wall.
Correct, look after their property.
I think
They need a wall to look after their property.
Yeah, I think
So we've got to say, are we going to be dyed in the wall where we are, or are we not? Are we going to look at the wall and say the design of the wall as they've gotten rocks and look? And I think one look at that with the effects of the rocks and how this ties in the end effects. But in the end, we've got to come to a bottom line. They've got to protect their property. As council issued a consent, in my opinion, for them to subdivide that, even though it wasn't supposed to go through, as I understand it. But it went through, so we have got a responsibility. So I think we've got to sit down and work it through.
So Alan, you've been.
We're debating this now, and I don't think we.
I know, we are debating this now, so.
But is my assessment right? It's about access. Like, I agree that they want to protect their homes and they want to pay for it. They just want to get the wall as far seaward as they can and dump it on their property as a choice. And we're saying, if you protect it on public land, then we have to have public access. Is that?
Well, you can't, when there is, I might be wrong, when there is reserve, you can't put the wall behind.
No, they can put it on their own property. That's what the speech.
It would not be very practical. Because you'd have to dig out the.
Yeah.
No, don't worry about that.
No, I know, yeah.
Like, don't worry about that. Their issue is, and rightfully, they want to protect their homes. They're not asking us to pay for it. They're going to pay for it. But their first choice is to put it on public land.
We've got to be practical too.
Absolutely. Okay, Alan, and then I see you, Jeremy, with your hand up.
Jeremy, go first if you want.
You can go first. Alan's being very kind. You're unmuted.
No, sorry, it was up from last time.
Oh.
I just lowered it.
We're going to get really good at this technology by the end of it. Right, Alan.
Yeah, I just think we do need to be quite clear, and I've got no problem with deferring and going through the detail at a workshop, but you know, the comprehensive report that I've written is, I think, sets out the current situation quite clearly. The issue is there is council-owned land, which is public reserve land, that runs along the front of the properties where the homeowner's wall is proposed to be rebuilt. So the question
is, as the owner of the land, as opposed to the regulatory body, does the council want to ensure that there is a public walkway, and it's more than just access, it's a walkway along the top of that. That in the past, the Council Community Board has always said that it wants to develop a walkway that runs all the way from the Whitianga Wharf all the way to the end of Brophy's Beach, and it wants to do that behind the dunes, but as close to the beach as it possibly can. And that's the plan that's attached right at the back of the report that shows the red line showing the alignment of that walkway. And the Community Board invested funds in putting a bridge across the RTS stream and through this bit as far as where the boat club currently is. Part of that plan has always been for that walkway to be developed along on the council land as far as it possibly can be along in front of these particular properties where the wall is located. So the basis of the report that I've written is to continue with the implementation of that walkway. So the Community Board does have a choice, or the council does have a choice as the landowner as to whether it wants to maintain that position and insist as the landowner that the wall should contain a walkway along the top of it, or you could decide, if you wish, at that point to say that as per the suggestions in that Competent Taylor report that's been given to us, for that stretch of the beach to have the walkway actually on the beach rather than on top of the homeowner's wall, and to accept that for the periods when the high tide prevents walking along the beach, that for that period of time, people will have to go out and walk on the footpath alongside the state highway to get to Brophy's Beach. So that's the basis of what the issue is all about. So in a way, as Jamie was pointing out, it doesn't have a huge amount to do with the coastal processes going on in the area. It's more to do with what the council and the Community Board want as the representatives of the public for the use of that public land in that area. But there is, Mary's quite right, there's a long history to this, and there's a huge amount of detail that's not in this report. And I'm more than happy for us to have the workshop to review the whole of that information that we have. It would be good to have the report from Foresight consultants before that workshop just to get their suggestions into that particular part of the beach. So if we were to wait for that, then obviously we couldn't have that workshop till July sometime. And whether we can continue with that or not would really depend on whether the WRC are prepared to defer the hearing.
Alan.
Right, so Jeremy.
Alan, could I just ask regarding the 3 or 4 properties that currently don't have council land in front of them, what is the intention to deal with the walkway past them?
The intention there was to put some steps down onto the beach, walk along the beach and put some steps back up again.
Right, so just visualising it, it would come along that stretch of house homeowner's wall, then you'd step off or step down the stairs along the beach and then back up across those 3 properties.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
Again, my apologies for being late. My concern is that this has been going on, as we all know, for a long time. If we don't protect council property, are we setting a precedent which might open the door for other opportunities for council land to not be available to the public?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
We could, make a deliberate decision that we allow the wall to be built on part of that reserve land.
Yes.
There will be some areas, even when the wall is built, behind the wall where there still will be reserve land. And so that land can still be made grass or whatever, yes, and public could still have access to that part of the reserve,
right,
without a walkway on top of the wall.
Okay. Yeah.
So-
Hang on, sorry, Jane, you just wanted to say something and then I'll come back to you,
Oh,
Tony?
no, it doesn't, it's passed out.
Passed, okay. Tony?
So if the wall was built where they're supposed to build it now, and there's no walkway on it, and we carry the Hoggin path and build that inside the wall, so we build the path, they don't provide the walkway on top of the wall, but there's a rock wall structure, like there is down there now, in parts, and there's dunes, and we've got a Hoggin path. So if it's about access, if they could build the wall where they're going to build it, and we could just come along with our scraper and scrape out 2 metres wide and fill it up with Hoggin, and have that, and we'll start to have some steps to go down, so they can walk on the beach and come up and get back on the Hoggin path. So I'm saying, if I look at it, it seems you may as well put the walkway on top of the wall, because we could make our own walkway inside the wall, because it's on our land.
Just to clarify that, so that would be for a very small part only.
Yes.
Because you would very quickly run out of reserve land where you'll get to the point where the rock wall actually occupies all of the reserve land. So it's only a small stretch at the southern end where you would be able to do what you suggest.
I just think if you're using, if at times when the tide is high and you're going to use the wall, you won't be coming down the stairs back into the water. So if you're going to walk along that stretch of beach, you're going to do it when the tide is out. Yeah, otherwise, to me, it seems that there is an alternative in terms of commuting. I know you leave the beach access, the beach environment.
Unless you found another solution to do something around the front of the walkway, I don't know whether that's even feasible. Nobody's looked at that possibility.
Like a clip-on or something.
Yeah, so the cost of that sounds astronomical.
And it will be in the marine environment.
Yes.
So there'll be consenting issues and all sorts of things.
Yes. So what's the feeling around the table? Because we have debated this somewhat since our first suggestion.
My feeling is that there are quite a few walks around the country where it is indicated that there are tidal implications that you have to take into account, and I have a degree of sympathy for some of the homeowners. I think, and also the fact that there is no reserve. There's a couple of properties that their boundaries actually go out into the marine environment as it is. Just complicate the whole issue. It just end up in a bloody great fun fight, really.
So in summation, you were saying?
In summation, I feel like we're going to have to choose your tide and wander down onto the beach past, 100 metres of wall. I don't really see it as a big issue.
Okay. Murray?
I would have preferred to have a good look at that.
You still want to have another look at this?
I'm not comfortable making a decision on this, and I know there's a lot of information here, and I've looked at it, and I walked past it dozens of times over the years, and I look at it every day, but
okay.
I think it's complicated. We've got to do something, and we've got to do something reasonably quickly, but it's not a simple solution, and I think we need to, whatever decision we make, we need to be very clear on why we've made that decision.
Okay. Tony?
Well, for me, the issue is about public access, and some of these homeowners or some of these properties, our reserve is their front lawn. And so it's a bit like going around Robinson Road. It's a reserve. They don't want a walkway going around there because people are walking in their backyard. So for me, the issue is pretty simple. It's either we protect public access over public land, and the homeowners are saying, we've got a prime piece of real estate and we want to protect our privacy. And it's where do you want to be? So if it's on our land, we should be able to walk over it. If it's on their land, they can do what they like with it.
I have to agree with Tony on that. There are instances all around the perimeters there where homeowners have taken advantage of free use of council land, and by inference, not allowing public access. And sure, at full tide, when we walk on the Hoggin path. At low tide, we walk on the beach. And Delia is quite right in that sense. But these homeowners have achieved a position which they don't actually have permission for. So it is not a simple solution.
All right. Jeremy, did you want to add anything, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll make a couple of points. I guess I think it's complicated by the 3 or 4 properties that you can't create a continuous walk right through there. I think the fact is that you have to leave the path and come back up. I also would note that it should be noted that the homeowners are paying for the cost to save council land. Essentially, they actually have this option to keep this. So I guess one option is, would it require to be a hog and path, or could it just be, left as reserve land? I guess that would be one question. And my position would stay the same, and the fact I'd rather defer it to a workshop to get the full history of it.
Okay, all right, so there's the decision. Yep. We're going to defer that to a workshop on the
9th of June. We've got a waste workshop.
Oh, right, that's going to be an exciting day.
We'll fit that in the same day, do you think?
We can, I've got one other item that I'll talk about later as well to go on that workshop again, so I'll just use you right up on the day.
Okay.
So that's a bit sneaky, isn't it?
This is keeping his own.
All right, do you need to write that up as a resolution? Do I need to see that? Do we need to agree?
We can run it past Alan before we.
Yep, so we're just going to defer that conversation into a workshop.
Yep.
All right. Did we have a mover and a seconder? Did we do that part?
Need to read that resolution.
Okay, so I need to hear it.
So we're going to take out resolution 2, and we're going to just say that you've agreed to defer a decision on the homeowners wall report to the 9th of June workshop. Is that you happy with that?
Yep.
Which will then be ratified at a meeting. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder for that?
I'll move that.
Thanks, Deli. Tony, all those in favour? Opposed? Carried. Okay, all right. I think everybody's looking like they want to have a cup of tea.
Jeremy might need a nap.
Jeremy,
Then we'll get into reserve management.
then we'll get into the reserve management plan. You look just like your granddaughter then. With the rolling of the eyes.
We're being recorded.
Yes.
Okie dokie. All right, so we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Jess, stay awake.
Okay, sounds good. See you soon.
10 minutes, mate.
All right.